Watch Fauci's ridiculous take on China, vaccines, and COVID lockdowns. Dr. Anthony Fauci on Wednesday discussed COVID mitigation efforts with MSNBC's Andrea Mitchell. Of course, Dr. Fauci agrees with the Biden administration's decision to extend the travel mask mandate for another 15 days.
Well, I think, Angie, because it's a moving target and we really want to see what the pattern is here in the United States, I think making a decision for April 18th, I would agree that we really do need more time. It isn't like things are static. Things are moving. We're seeing an increase throughout the country. We're seeing it more so in certain cities and certain regions than others. And until we get a really good handle on it, I think it's prudent. I mean, I don't know what the official word has been about that, but if they do extend it, I would not be surprised. And I think that that would be a prudent thing to do.
Philadelphia is bringing back its indoor mask mandate as of next week as well. Is this the right way to go on masks?
You know, again,
apparently, 15 more days isn't that bad when we're more than 2 years into the first 15 days to slow the spread. Later in the interview, Dr. Fauci praised China's early lockdowns and said they were doing better than anybody else.
How concerning is the outbreak in China? We see the lockdown in Shanghai, and the State Department now ordering families out, all non-essential workers out of Shanghai.
Well, China has a number of problems, two of which are that their complete lockdown, which was their approach, a strictest lockdown that you'd never be able to implement in the United States, although that prevents the spread of infection. And remember, early on, they were saying, and I think accurately, that they were doing better than almost anybody else. But lockdown has its consequences. You use lockdowns to get people vaccinated so that when you open up, you won't have a surge of infections because you're dealing with an immunologically naive population to the virus because they've not really been exposed because of the lockdown. The problem is that the vaccines that they've been using are not nearly as effective as the vaccines that are used in the United States, the UK, EU, and other places.
If vaccines have been so effective, why are people who are triple vaccinated getting COVID? If lockdowns were effective, why are we seeing studies that show the devastating long-term impacts on our children? Simply put, it's time for Dr. Fauci to go away, for good. Wow, Republican-led states passed this test with flying colors. If you followed COVID regulations closely by watching CNN, you might think New York or California handled the pandemic the best. But it seems that the facts just don't agree with that liberal narrative. A new study from the Committee to Unleash Prosperity was recently released, detailing how each state handled the COVID-19 pandemic and grading their individual responses to the federal-level lockdowns and restrictions. You won't be surprised to hear Republican-run states fared much better than their Democrat counterparts. In fact, 13 of the top 15 states in the study are governed by Republicans, when broken down into segments including economic performance, education, and mortality rates. The worst performers were all led by liberals. California, New York, New Jersey, and Chicago received failing grades. According to the report, these places had high age-adjusted death rates. They had high unemployment and significant GDP losses. And they kept their schools shut down much longer than almost all other states. This must be a shock to the mainstream media, who made Andrew Cuomo of New York and Gavin Newsom of California their own personal heroes of the pandemic. For months, it was nonstop coverage on hero Andrew Cuomo and his excessively forceful COVID policies that were keeping New Yorkers safe. Of course, he was forced to step down amid major personal scandal and the accusation that his policies led to the deaths of thousands of elderly New Yorkers. They also looked the other way when Governor Newsom, who is still running a total tyrant state to this day, was frequently caught dining without a mask and ignored a very heated recall election that he barely survived. They chose to demonize conservative governors instead, mainly Ron DeSantis of Florida, who was heavily criticized for opening up his state and schools long before others. A key finding suggests that response is exactly why Governor DeSantis' state of Florida ranks as a top performer on many levels. They stated that the study verifies other studies which have found that locking down businesses, stores, churches, schools, and restaurants had almost no impact on health outcomes across states. States with strict lockdowns had virtually no better performance in COVID death rates than states that remained mostly open for business. The best grades overall went to Utah, Nebraska, Vermont, Montana, South Dakota, and Florida, who all took a rational, anti-lockdown approach in governing in the pandemic. This is a philosophy even Dr. Fauci seems open to lately. When asked if the lockdowns were worth it, he told BBC, I don't think we're ever going to be able to determine what the right balance is. Maybe studies like this one may help sway his opinion.